Thank you for tuning in to Compass Truth. Hi, I'm Pastor Gary Silva, and I'm so glad that you have taken the time to tune in to us again. We have some exciting news to share with you like we always will here at Compass Truth. And today we want to share another testimony. But before we get into testimony, I want to talk to you about this particular issue, availability. Yeah, say that to yourself, availability. You need to be more available for God. I need to be more available for God. That's when things happen that's just out of the box. I mean, phenomenal things. If we would just be available, yes, simple, availability. You know, I got up this one morning, like I do every morning, pray and ask God. Say, Lord, today use me to be a blessing to somebody. Isn't that a great request? And you ought to try that sometime and see what will happen. You'll never know what can happen if you ask him honestly to use you for the goodness of someone else. So anyway, with this particular testimony, I tell you what, even thinking about it makes me excited. But I'm going to tell you something. After I asked, I received. I went to work that day, not expecting exactly what would happen, but lo and behold, received a phone call, dealing with a customer, and they were so happy, it excited me. It let me know why they were happy that day. And then they just simply told me that they had spent a lot of time not being happy because something had happened to a loved one of theirs. Happened to be the stepbrother. Okay, kind of fast forward and starting a little bit, the stepbrother had got involved with some drugs, and bad incident happened with the police, and they got tased, and they were now in ICU in the hospital, and in a coma. They had been there for 30 days, you know, which I was really kind of surprised at that, and I definitely offered my empathy and connected with the individual and told him, I said, hey, we have a ministry here, and if you want us to come and help, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to connect with you this weekend. So then again, it was the next day, we did get a telephone call, and we did promise to come by the hospital on that Sunday. So we went there that Sunday, and as far as I remember it, it was a real quiet point. We were walking across the bottom floor of the hospital, and all of a sudden I get a text from her, and she says, my stepbrother has just awakened from the coma. Glory to God. That was so awesome. And right then and there, God was showing that he was there with us, and that it was his will for us to be there right then. So we continued to proceed upstairs, and we got there. The doctors definitely were waiting. They were expecting us to be there, and when we arrived, they informed us of the condition of the young man, and they made sure that we were protected with the proper clothing. We walked in and was able to see the young man, and the sight that we had to behold was really, really interesting. It was beyond our expectations, you know. But to kind of paint the scene clear for you, you know, his kidneys had been shut down. His body was very swell. He had a trach in his throat. It was a pretty gruesome sight, but yet and still, the Spirit of God was there and gave us faithful insight and oversight in the situation. And I was able to speak to the young man and gave him our promise that we would be there. If he could believe, we'd be there for 4 weeks, you know, ministering to him every Sunday. And that after that point, that God, with his faithfulness, would have him restored, and that he would be able to walk out of that hospital after those 4 weeks with us. And so, young man looked. He fastened his eyes upon us, and he told us that he did believe. And so we touched and agreed in prayer and ministered to him that day. And then we left. Well, we continued there every Sunday ministering to the young man. And after that 4th Sunday, that Wednesday, right after that, his dad called and did let us know that they were releasing the young man from the hospital, and that he was walking out under his own power, and that his bodily functions were working. Everything was functionable. And that was an awesome situation. Well, some months went on after that, and really hadn't heard too much from the young man, even though he was receiving text prayers from us, and sometimes he would respond. But he invited us to dinner at his house, in which we were excited about that he was ready to have company. So we went, and we sat down and had a rejoiceful time of dinner with him. And then he leaned over and he told me, he said, Pastor Gary, you know, I need to go down to the courthouse next week because of some charges that were set against me in connection with this last situation also. And I just need you to pray. Appreciate if you guys would pray with me on this, because I really want to turn over a new leaf and get my life straight and do some positive things. So we did touch and agree in prayer with him. And then next few days went by, and then he called, and this is the information that he gave us, that when he arrived there at the courtroom, the judge called him first, and the judge wanted him to share with him all the different things that he had gone through. So he was able to testify right there in the courtroom in front of everyone about the miraculous hand of God that had impacted his life since the last situation he had been in. And so the judge, in return, responded to him and asked him to have a seat. And he had to sit there and listen to all the other cases. And then once the courtroom was empty of those cases, then the judge brought in, it's about 13 other inmates that were in there right then, which most of them he already knew because he had been in there incarcerated with them before. But the judge then asked him to testify to them about what God had done in his life in this courtroom, and then prayed for them. That was awesome. I tell you what, if we make ourselves available for God to use, there's no telling how the stories will end. And I tell you what, and the testimonies go on. So I just want to encourage you to just make yourself available. Let God just use you any kind of way he wants to. It doesn't have to be a long situation like that, but it can just be a word, a right word at the right time. Anything can happen, because sometimes you can be the only word that people will really read, and God has our lives on display. We have been bought with a price. We are his purchased possessions. He wants people to be able to look into your life, to be able to see, into your heart and hear your words and see exactly how God decides to manifest his glory in your life. But here again, I thank you for tuning in to Compass Truth. You know what? If this has been a blessing to you, don't hold back. Share us on your Facebook. Send me a word there on YouTube. Like it and continue to tune into our channel. Anyway, thanks again from Pastor Gary Silver here at Compass Truth. We'll see you soon. God bless.